At the beginning of the film, we see a woman named Lane who has crossed every limit of human stamina. She is going through unbearable pain, yet she does not dare to make even the smallest sound. She knows that even a faint noise, rapid breathing, or a slight movement of her body could attract the bloodthirsty savage beasts, the zombies, straight to her. Behind this silence, it is not just pain, but a battle between life and death. In this struggle, Lane gives birth to a healthy baby. But at the same time, the blood-hungry zombies hear Lane's uncontrollable screams and rush toward her. The companions around Lane, armed with weapons, fight back against the zombies. During this chaos, the baby is not handed to the father, Carter. Instead, Dr. Eddie takes the baby with him, promising to keep the child safe. Carter, broken by pain, moves forward while holding his wife Lane when suddenly a zombie attacks him. Carter shoots it, but at that very moment, another zombie bites Lane. Carter immediately kills the zombie and rushes Lane into a room, but he cannot save her. Lane dies in Carter's arms. When morning comes, Carter digs Lane's grave. He keeps her locket with himself and buries his beloved wife, Lane. Within moments, the population continues to fall and the area turns completely deserted. The people who survive are left struggling even to breathe. The world is no longer the same as it once was. Finding food and supplies is no longer the only challenge. At every step, there is the fear of hidden zombies, waiting in ambush, ready to attack and turn any moment into death. After losing his wife, Carter wandered alone all day until he finally reached a convenience store. But all the supplies inside had long been looted. Refusing to give up, he moved to the adjacent room. There, he saw two bodies lying on the sofa, pressed against each other. Even in death, their hands were locked together. Carter froze for a long time, lost in thought. Unnoticed, tears welled up in his eyes as his mind drifted back to a night 19 years ago, when the zombie virus had just begun spreading. Back then, Carter had been hiding in a warehouse outside the city with his pregnant wife. Seeing these two bodies, still together even in death, Carter slowly drew his pistol. Wishing to see his wife again, he pulled the trigger with all his strength. But the gun didn't fire, as if fate wanted him to survive and to continue living through this apocalypse. As the sun set, Carter walked alone through the desolate, apocalypse-ridden streets. The city that had once been full of noise and chaos was now silent and abandoned. He continued moving forward. Passing by a destroyed building, a zombie stumbled out of the mud in front of him. Carter immediately turned and hid behind a fuselage. Realizing the zombie was slowly approaching, he picked up a glass bottle from the ground and threw it in the opposite direction. The sound of it shattering successfully drew the zombie's attention, and Carter took the opportunity to run in the other direction, saving his life. Back at his temporary shelter, Carter lit a cigarette and then picked up his guitar, preparing to play a tune. Suddenly, he heard a faint sound from the door handle. Alert, he grabbed his gun and hid, aiming carefully at the door. He saw the door slowly open, and a girl quietly entered. Carter cautiously stepped forward, checking first to make sure she was alone, unarmed, and not infected. Only then did he allow himself to feel a sense of relief. After that, Carter gave food to the girl, whose name was Daisy. She devoured the canned food quickly, as if she hadn't eaten in days. Once she was done, Daisy introduced herself. She had come from a large survivor community in the north. A few days earlier, she had gone out with her group to scavenge supplies in the suburbs. But there, they encountered a group of brutal raiders. Their methods were extremely cruel. They not only killed all the men in the group, but also abused the surviving women, one by one. Daisy was lucky to escape, but tragically, all her other companions were killed. Carter stayed silent. He had faced raiders many times in the forests and abandoned areas. Their methods were even more dangerous and deadly than zombies. After eating, Daisy looked at a map and pointed out to Carter where their community was located in the far north. She also mentioned a central gathering point in the main area, where every few days a truck would arrive to take people to safety. Daisy wanted Carter to help her reach that gathering point, because the route passed through the raiders' territory, full of traps and scouts. She could not go there alone. Carter firmly refused without hesitation. Even though the journey was only 5 days, his heart had become completely still, like calm water, and he no longer cared about the outside world. Seeing the disappointment on Daisy's face, Carter's thoughts drifted back 3 years. He had heard that an orphaned young child had appeared at a northern gathering point, and he had felt anxious, wondering if it might be his own child. But his only companion had refused to go with him because the place was too far. Sam himself was traveling with a child, making the long journey difficult. With a heavy heart, Carter had set out alone in search of his child. Since that day, he had not formed any close bond with anyone again. Morning sunlight spread through the room, waking Daisy to the sweet sound of a guitar. She realized Carter was playing downstairs, and to her surprise, he had changed his mind. He agreed to help her reach the camp's gathering point. Perhaps, having felt the pain of refusal himself, he now wanted to help her. They set out on their journey, and according to Carter's plan, before reaching their destination, they needed to collect some essential weapons from a man named Shepard. After riding for some time, they arrived at a small, rundown house. Daisy's attention was caught by a decorative bird, making her feel that some other life still existed here. As they surveyed the house, an old man appeared. Carter immediately recognized him as Shepard. Daisy was drawn to Shepard's horse, and for a short while, the stern man allowed her to ride it. Carter and Shepard spoke privately, and when Shepard asked about Daisy, Carter explained that he was taking her to the north side, not for profit, but simply for peace of mind. To reach that area, they needed guns. Shepard had various firearms and ammunition, but Carter had no money to pay for them. Instead, he offered his guitar, his companion for many years, in exchange for the weapons. Daisy watched this and felt deeply moved. And later, as Carter checked the guns, she felt ashamed for never realizing the purpose behind bringing his guitar. The journey ahead was dangerous, and they had to be prepared for every possible threat. Daisy's eyes filled with emotion, and she felt deep respect and gratitude for Carter. In this apocalyptic world, finding someone with such a pure and kind heart was almost impossible, and Carter's selflessness gave her a rare sense of hope and trust in the chaos surrounding them. After collecting the weapons, Carter and Daisy began their journey and soon spotted a group of thugs heading to a vehicle. Daisy became visibly upset at the sight. That night, they made camp inside a small shop, lighting a fire to stay warm. While resting, Daisy asked Carter why he had changed his mind. He had previously refused to take her to her destination, but now agreed. Carter explained that in this apocalypse, help is rare. Just as he had once suffered the pain of not receiving help, he understood Daisy's situation and wanted to aid her. Daisy then asked about the single bullet left in his pistol. Carter explained that in a world as unpredictable as this, no one knows what will happen next, but at least with that bullet, he could make his own choice between life and death. Hearing this, Daisy remembered her friend Emma, who had been mercilessly killed before she could save her, and she became emotional. Carter, in turn, recalled moments with his wife, Lane, remembering how she wanted to be a strong mother and not live in fear. Sadly, Lane had died giving birth before she could raise her child. At dawn, Carter and Daisy resumed their journey. On the road, they came across a board on the ground that read, "They left us to die." Daisy, having been born after the apocalypse began and knowing little of the past, could not understand the full meaning. Carter, though reluctant to revisit painful memories, began explaining how the virus had spread. Initially, only a few people were infected, but the virus quickly escalated, and those affected showed signs of irritability and aggression. As the number of infected grew, emergency services collapsed, society broke down, and even government promises of a vaccine became meaningless. Survivors realized they had been abandoned. Human cruelty rose to the surface. People burned, killed, looted, and attacked one another, destroying civilization completely. Even when a vaccine was eventually available, it was useless against the zombies. Carter felt all of this deeply and knew that hope was dangerous because if it was taken away, no one could endure the resulting pain. After traveling much of the day, the two reached a line of barbed wire marking the raiders' territory. Carter crouched and observed from a distance, seeing several raiders brutally attacking a man who pleaded for mercy, only to be shot by their leader. Daisy held a gun, ready to shoot, but Carter forced her to keep it down. It was not the time for revenge. He instructed Daisy to find a hiding spot while he scouted a sniper position. What he saw next froze him in shock. A blood-soaked, dead body tied to a structure, a bag nearby labeled Emma, Daisy's friend who had been brutally killed by the raiders. Moving forward, Carter noticed a child's shoes, a reminder that the raiders spared no one, not even children. Before his anger could settle, gunfire erupted outside. Daisy, overcome by emotion, had attempted to attack the raiders from hiding but was immediately caught. As Carter found an excellent sniper position, he began firing at the raiders. Though they outnumbered him, he had planned everything in advance. The sound of gunfire drew nearby zombies toward the chaos. Amid the confusion, Carter entered the room where Daisy was being held. Eliminated the guards one by one, and freed her. Outside, they discovered that the raider leader had already killed some zombies. As the enemy approached, Carter drew a dagger and leaped at the leader. The man's strength quickly overpowered him, and Daisy rushed to help, but was also thrown to the ground. Just as the leader was about to enjoy his victory, Daisy bit his neck with all her strength. Blood poured out, and the ruthless man finally collapsed and died. Daisy ran to Carter, and together they gasped for air, hearts pounding from the ordeal. This life-and-death experience brought them extremely close. And Daisy invited Carter to join her community and settle there, but he silently moved forward, knowing they were heading toward Declan's territory. 3 years later, the two met again, both having changed. Declan was now in a wheelchair after falling from a ladder. Carter asked about Declan's son, Charlie, and learned he had supposedly died. Carter expressed quiet sorrow but said he would stay only for the night and leave the next morning. Declan immediately grew upset, accusing Carter of focusing solely on finding his own child and leaving him to face danger alone. Realizing Daisy was listening, Declan quickly changed the subject and told Carter to retrieve his supplies from a nearby warehouse. As Carter went to get a torch, Daisy followed, and Declan began recounting the story of his and Carter's past. His face twisted with anger, blaming Carter for abandoning him.
"You ever lose anyone? I had a son.
But then he shocked Daisy by standing up from his wheelchair and peering out the window at the warehouse where Carter had entered. Declan's cunning smile revealed he had something sinister in mind. Daisy pulled out a knife, ready to confront him, but Declan advanced with malicious intent. She tried to fight but was pushed step by step into a corner. Terrified, she cried out that Carter would return, but Declan laughed, claiming Carter would never come back. Unknown to him, Carter was already inside the warehouse, where there was no supplies. Only a small child who had long since turned into a zombie. Declan's son, Charlie, had not died, but had become infected. Had Carter not reacted instantly, the zombie child would have killed him. Meanwhile, Declan watched Daisy with cruel intent, explaining that he had been feeding his son over the years, keeping him alive. Just as Declan began unbuckling his belt, Carter burst through the door and swiftly killed the zombie Charlie. Declan fired a shot at Carter without thinking, hitting him and causing him to fall. Seeing this, Daisy instinctively lunged at Declan, and a fierce struggle ensued. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out, and Declan collapsed. Carter had fired the bullet he had saved for himself, though he was injured in the process. Daisy helped the wounded Carter and ran toward the meeting point, but tragically, before help could arrive, Carter collapsed from exhaustion. Fortunately, a man came to assist them. While unconscious, Carter saw his deceased wife, Lane, and tried to reach for her, but she shook her head, holding him back. Moments later, Carter awoke to find himself at a survivor camp. After emergency treatment, he was finally out of danger, alive and safe. At that moment, an elderly man with white hair entered the room. Carter immediately recognized him. It was Dr. Eddie, the very man who had taken his baby years ago. the child he had been searching for all this time. Over the years, Dr. Eddie had wanted to return to Carter, but had stayed away to ensure Daisy's safety. Carter's eyes were filled with a mix of disbelief and amazement. Then, the incredible truth was revealed. Daisy was the baby girl Carter had been desperately looking for 19 years. She had been right there, protecting herself and keeping safe all along under his care. Carter, finally fully recovered, decided to stay there. He gave Daisy the locket of her mother, which he had kept safely for 19 years, to pass on to his daughter. Now, Daisy gifted Carter her guitar, a symbol of trust and love. Carter, moved beyond words, sang a song for his daughter Daisy, cherishing their long-awaited reunion. In that moment, the horrors of the apocalypse finally gave way to hope, and Red Plague came to a happy ending as father and daughter were reunited, safe at last.
So, dear viewers, how did you like this recap? Do let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting updates. Thank you.